Pat here, Dead Things and the Hideous Horror on How. So in the previous two videos I showed 3 of my electronic systems. The Witches, Craven and Crania, and the Yard. How am I going to combine these 3 to create a show? Well, in order to create a show, I've designated one of these systems to be a central overlord. The overlord that will take over the other 2 and tell them when to run their particular routines. For that I'm going to use the Yardhaunt. It has the least to do in this whole scenario, so it will be the one that takes all over that. So how it's going to do that is by using in and out pins and designating them a receive pin and a send pin. So on here I've designated C.0 and C.1 as send and receive for the Witches, and C.6 and C.7 send and receive for Craven and Crania. Now you see that I do have 3 wires connected up, not just 2. The reason for that is that we always have to connect the grounds on DC electronics. If you do not, you will have problems. So those then connect up with the send receive here and the ground. And on Craven and Crania, you see the cord that comes in here. Comes down here, joins up there. And that cord goes down through the central tree and exits here. So that's fine and dandy, but still, how is it all going to come together? Well, the show will go like this. So the Yard pre-trigger is going to play an ambient track. It will randomly select those tracks from folder 1 on the empty fly, and as long as there is no trigger, as soon as that track is done, it will then select another track randomly and play that. So it will be perpetually random songs until that trigger is pressed. So I'll walk through the series of events. The trigger is pressed. At that point, the witch overlord sends a signal to the Yard saying, "We've begun our routine," at which point the gargoyles will go off and a new MP3 will start to play. The gargoyles will then go down. The Witches will carry on their routine. Craven and Crania are just waiting for something to happen. The Witches end the talking portion and send a signal to the Flying Witch to begin her routine. At the same time, it sends another signal back here to tell the gargoyles to go off and to play another MP3. Once that is done, this will begin its routine with another MP3. Those will go off in a particular sequence, including the gargoyles. When that is done, it will now send a signal to Craven and Crania to begin their routine. When that is done, Craven and Crania will send a signal back to the Yard telling it it is done, and the Yard will begin another routine separate from the first one with a separate MP3. When that routine is done, it will send a signal to the Witches telling the witches to do their final routine. Sending the witch flying again, sending the final gargoyles and smoke going, and then all of it going silent, and randomly selecting another MP3 to play while it waits for another trigger. Fuck, I hope it all works. It should. For a couple of reasons. I've learned a lot in the 4 years or so that I've been trying to make this happen. I understand a lot better the limitations of the electronics, and certainly the limitations of any of the project boards that I'd built. So I think a couple of things are working in on my favor now. My experience, but also the fact that I'm using printed circuit boards as opposed to project boards. With a project board, with the freeze and warming cycles that we would go through, I can never be sure if it wasn't a trace that lifted, or maybe there was a hairline crack in one of these wires, or something like that. With printed circuit boards, it's just components that I have to worry about. If my soldering is good, that's all I have to worry about, is just the components, whether I've got a bad component or not. So a lot less variables than there are with this. The other thing, as I said, I am well aware of the difficulties of haunting in a climate such as mine, where it can be close to freezing temperatures on Halloween night. These pickaxes, I've learned, do not like cold. So in order to overcome that, I'm using these. Now if you had a light, tight box, or in the space, which I don't in here, you could easily put a light bulb in there and that would keep it warm as well. But these will do just fine. Open them up, expose them to air, throw them down in here. Should keep the temperature warm enough. And I'll put one in each, couple in each one of these boxes in here, and that should help a lot. The code is very simple for this. Actually, it's just sending high commands and waiting for commands. Basically, it's not all that difficult, this particular code. So again, the reason why I like pickaxe is because of its simplicity. Once you kind of figure it out and get it, and it doesn't take long because it's designed for school kids, it's really is simple to use and effective. Fuck, I hope it works. Well, we'll be letting you know. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. Stay scary and happy Halloween.